You are listening to the Pencil and Paper Podcast Network.
I'm Katrina, and I love anime.
I'm Steven, and I'm aware of anime.
But what if that affection could rub off?
Perhaps that excitement in her eyes got me curious.
I could offer up some solid anime.
I could give them a watch, just to see what all the fuss is about.
And maybe, just maybe,
I could learn to love anime too.
Welcome to Inspired by a Weeaboo.
Alchemy, the science of transmuting matter from one form to another. Edward and Alphonse Elric thought they'd learned enough to bring their mother back from death. But the laws of nature demand a heavy price. Edward, with an arm and a leg of metal, and his little brother Alphonse, whose soul is now encased in a living suit of armor, begin a journey to restore their bodies by finding the legendary Philosopher's Stone, which holds unlimited power. But they're not alone. Fullmetal Alchemist.
Welcome back to another episode of Inspired by a Weeaboo. I am your host, Katrina, and with me is my wonderful husband, Steven.
Season 3, baby!
We are finally doing Fullmetal Alchemist, the original Fullmetal Alchemist. It is, as I have said before, one of my absolute favorite animes, and the amount of bullcrap we had to go to just obtain it was utterly ridiculous.
Yes, please enlighten everyone about this.
Oh my god. So, as all of you weebs should know, Brotherhood came out several years ago. Well, they used to have both of them streaming. You could find them on Funimation, on HBO, on freaking Netflix. They were everywhere. Well, apparently, last year in 2022, they completely removed the original Fullmetal Alchemist. You cannot find it streaming anywhere.
And when we say anywhere, we mean not just on streaming services to watch like on Netflix or whatever, but even to buy, it's unavailable.
Yeah, not even on freaking YouTube. There are no episodes of the original on YouTube. You can only find Brotherhood. So I was getting very, very upset. Well, luckily we did find the complete series on Amazon. So all of my weebs who love this, if you do not own it, go buy it on Amazon.
But it will set you back a pretty penny.
Yeah.
And it was limited stock too, so hopefully you can find it.
We have the sneaking suspicion that they're just trying to get rid of it completely. And I feel like if you're somebody who loves this show, get it. Even if you're somebody who liked it originally and when Brotherhood came out and you just love Brotherhood more, just freaking get it, because at some point it's no longer going to exist. Mm-hmm. So you might as well jump on it now. Again,
we have no proof, but
yeah,
the facts are just starting to line up.
Yeah, it's getting dicey. Mm-hmm. But anyway, we have watched episode 1 of Fullmetal Alchemist, and I will not be ashamed to admit I almost cried at several points in it. Not only because I've been so excited to watch this again, but just the nostalgia that it instantly brought back in the feels that you already get just at episode 1, at least on my point. But I want to know, Steven, what did you think about episode 1?
Well, I do want to discuss it. And before we dive too deep into that, I do want to kind of bring up to anyone who possibly has not watched Brotherhood, I want to kind of break down why this is different compared to that. And I mean, some people may already know, but just to kind of break it down.
I feel like we had talked about that before.
We have, but
Okay.
for facts and facts' sake, I just want to kind of go over it. So this is loosely based on the original manga series of the same name by Hiromu Araki. Why can't I do this? I'm still learning Japanese, and for some reason I look at the words and I'm like, Hiromu Arakawa. There we go. I did that. Now, it was comprised of 51 episodes, which we're going to go through.
Yep.
Produced by the animation studio Bones for the Manichi Broadcasting System.
A for effort.
Yes, I try. Now, as in the manga, this series follows the adventures of Edward and Alphonse Elric. Elric, am I saying that right?
Elric.
Elric. So not because
No,
I'm
Elric.
putting the before the L. So it's Elric brothers,
Yes.
who are searching for the Philosopher Stones so they can regain the bodies that they lost in failed attempt to bring their dead mother back to life. Now, I did take note of that because that's what I kind of was gathering through watching the first episode, but I didn't.
Yes.
I felt like they didn't give too many details, so there's probably more details about that later on, so I don't want to dive too deep into that.
No, you definitely see. It's one of those where you're going to get those flashbacks,
Mm-hmm.
and it honestly goes through, or basically throughout the entire series. You find out more and more and more about them, not only when they were younger, but about their parents, and more specifically their father, who's going to be absent for the majority of the show.
Okay. The big detail that explains Brotherhood is that Arakawa, did I say that right? I did. I don't know why I doubted myself. Arakawa requested that an original ending for the anime that differed from the manga because, as we mentioned prior, that the manga was still ongoing at the time, which led to this series deviating from the original storyline about halfway through. So I'm curious, do you know about where it starts to deviate? Are you aware?
Honestly, not 100% sure, because when I watched Brotherhood, I know based off of the original, there are several episodes that happen kind of later in the series, but happen a lot earlier in Brotherhood. So I'm not really sure. But then again, I've only seen Brotherhood once. I've seen this one probably 1,000 times, but I've only seen Brotherhood once, and it took me forever to watch it.
Seeing as how the way this is setting things up, and you mention that Brotherhood seems to speed through so much, based on what I saw here, this was a perfect setup to a story.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel like if you speed through things, I'm a little concerned too, because I haven't even watched Brotherhood, and just based on the way this set things up, they gave you a snippet of their past, like how it all began, and it was just enough to give you enough details that you can kind of piece together what happened, because I guess I missed where Edward, he's the older brother, right?
Yes.
Okay, Edward had lost his arm. We saw
And
clearly that he
yes.
lost his leg.
Yes.
So I missed.
No,
I did-
you haven't missed it. It's something that does end up being shown in one of the flashbacks.
Okay, but in this particular flashback at the beginning, they don't focus on it like they did his leg. His leg, it's nice and off and bloody, and you're like, oh, okay. But I missed the arm. But then again, I have seen like the cover art where he's got the metal arm. So for some reason, my brain wasn't connecting those dots at first. And then when I saw it, I was like, oh, yeah, he does have the metal arm. So they give you those little snippets. And then I'm pretty sure one of them said mom in that opening.
Edward.
So I kind of put two and two together based on the facts presented that they were trying to revive their dead mother with alchemy. Now, yes or no, because again, I want to get to all these details as they come about through other episodes, but was this their first time using alchemy?
No.
Okay. So
Now,
they probably got maybe a little overzealous.
their first few times using alchemy was like children, just making little trinkets, which you will see in a flashback. This was, and I don't know if I want to say too much because it does explain it.
Okay,
You see
then-
all of this in flashbacks. Like, you see when they decide to do it. You see, obviously, why they decide to do it, which I'm sure you can deduce why they decide to do it. But this was the biggest thing that they had ever done.
Now, again, without saying too much, were they not aware of the rules? Or did they?
They did not know what would happen. They looked at it from a scientific standpoint. They had everything they needed. Like Edward recites in the first episode when he's telling Rose all the material it takes to make up an adult human. They researched it. Like, they didn't just jump into it and, go, we're going to bring our mom back and just fling themselves into it. It's a lengthy process that they go through. And it's actually, it doesn't happen as fast as it makes you seem. And that gets explained further throughout the anime. But the problem is like Edward says, to obtain something of equal value must be exchanged. So what they did was they took the base elements, they took the remains of their mother, and they were like, this is equal. This is, what it takes. But not understanding that to bring an entire person back, you're going to need the equivalent, which would be an entire fucking person.
Sure. Okay. Yeah.
But it goes into it. And while there are obviously religious hints throughout all of it. And even as it goes further, I mean, literally the bad guys in it are the 7 deadly sins. Like, they are all named after one of the sins.
I was curious about that when that one little gremlin showed up at the end.
Gluttony. He is adorable, but he is fucking creepy as shit. But anyway, like I said, all this stuff gets explained, but you just kind of got to look at it like them doing it, and you're going to meet other people who have attempted it too. Like, they are not the only ones in all of existence to attempt this. There have been others, and that all gets explained. Every little piece ties together. Every character you see ties together, and everything that happens in that first episode has set off a chain of events.
Okay. And so with that in mind, even reading through the base synopsis, they waste no time in laying out that they are there for the Philosopher's Stone. The guy has it. They're there. And one would think that, oh, well, there they are. They've found it. So it's not the search for it. It's more than that, clearly.
Yeah.
So,
well, it's one of those... Again, you'll find out very early in the next episode. This is definitely a search that keeps on going.
Gotcha. So this guy, this preacher, I guess, or...
The father.
Yes. Priest. I guess a priest would be better.
Yeah, he'd be like a priest.
Because I want to ask questions, but I feel like they'll get explained. Because he's doing something that... they can seem to do because Edward...
Alchemy.
Well, I mean, because they were giving him grief for the way he was performing it.
Without a transmutation circle.
Right, with the stone. And they were like, he's disrupting the rules.
Yes, and that also gets explained later in the series.
So a lot of all my questions, are coming from...
Like I said, everything ties in together. Like the reason why Edward and Al know the father should not be using that. The reason they know only the people like them can do that. all of this gets explained later in the episode. And it all comes back to what Ed and Al say, or even the father says, you stepped on holy ground and you stepped where only God should be, and this was your punishment. It comes all the way back to that freaking sentence.
So with that, do they explain, I have a theory, but do they explain how Edward was able to produce a spear just without the transmutation?
Yes.
Okay. Because my theory, and you can shut me down if I'm wrong.
Okay.
I feel like he's got one in his hand.
No.
Okay. Well, he's wearing gloves, so I thought maybe they were being sneaky about it.
No, his gloves are literally just to hide his automail.
So has he got them on both hands?
No, he just wears both gloves,
Gotcha.
so he doesn't, he's not all Luke Skywalker-y.
Fair enough.
But no, like, he doesn't necessarily hide his automail. Like, he does to a point, but if somebody knows him, they know why he's called Fullmetal. But as far as Alphonse, except for two other people towards the beginning of how the story goes, except for two other people, Ed and Al are the only ones that know Alphonse in that suit.
And I'm assuming a lot of that...
technically not in that suit.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I'm assuming that'll all get explained as well, because
yes,
I was curious. I have, again, theories on how he got into the suit and how all that goes, but we see him get his head knocked off, or the suit's head knocked off, and there's nothing, or clearly seems to be nothing inside. So I was like, all right, well, that's interesting. Because I had a feeling he was not in the suit per se.
Yeah.
So.
Mainly because he's a 14-year-old child and the suit is massive.
Right.
There's no way he could fill it.
And 4 years have passed since they had their accident. Because I'm almost positive it said they were 11 and 10, and then they got 15 and 14. So, okay. So they've been on this journey for some time.
Yes.
And
like I said, technically it starts even before you ever see them in that opening shot in the house. There's a whole story leading up to how they mastered alchemy enough to get to that point to do that.
Now, I know this might be a little off topic, but by comparison, just because this is my first episode and I have seen pictures of the film, I can see where you had problems because it looked like a grown-ass man playing a 15-year-old boy.
And see, that wasn't even the biggest problem I had. It was the hair.
Yeah, the hair was
the way that
weird.
They did his hair. The best part of that movie was how they did Alphonse. Like, even the alchemy was, like, second best compared to Alphonse. Which at least they did my boy right, because you are going to love Alphonse. He is just a sweet little bean.
I mean, he still sounds like a child.
I mean, no, that is one of those things you have to remember. They're still children. Like, they are not immature children to a point. But, I mean, in the sense of, like, you can't compare them to, like, today's teens or preteens. Like, they have a very good head on their shoulders. They have taken care of themselves for quite some time. But as you can see with Edward, he gets very butthurt when his height is mentioned. He has that short man complex.
Oh, yeah.
But that is a running gag. And you're going to meet other characters who have their own little quirky traits that are absolutely hilarious. And the best one, or one of the best ones, is Major Armstrong. And I cannot wait for him to be introduced because he is hilarious.
Okay. I mean, I really don't know what more I can say about this. This is a good introductory story or episode where we just kind of get enough to make you curious about what's going on. And the main plot seems to be laid out with enough of their story to kind of keep you intrigued. And you know, compared to other animes you've tried showing me, I understand what's going on. I'm intrigued by what's going on. They don't just kind of throw stuff at the wall and say, here you go.
And that's what I was going to ask you. Like, it makes you want to come back, or does it make you, obviously it makes you want to come back if you're intrigued.
Yeah, I mean, with this, I mean, just the way the story laid out, I want to know more. I'm curious. And that to me is if you can hook someone in the first episode, because you know, I understand this can be a tricky thing with some people. I can be that way where they'll say, well, you just got to wait until the 3rd or 4th episode. And it really picks up and it's like, yeah, but then you're telling me I got to sit through 2 or 3 bad episodes and I don't want to do that. You know, so sometimes I'll do it, but you know, I don't, that's not a good selling point. You know, you want someone to, you want to know that you've grabbed them from the first episode. And considering these are anime episodes, they don't seem very long. I swear to God, every time we watch them, they just blink by. I think most of the runtime that you see, because I don't even know how long the actual runtime of the episode was. I would probably say 22 minutes, and then 4 minutes of that is credits.
Yeah, and they didn't even do the opening, the opener.
Yeah,
theme.
well, yeah, they did. They played like the opening credits over the opening scene.
Yes, which is how that one was played. But I also feel like they did run the opening. I could be wrong, but we'll see with the second one, which I don't even think. I think it went straight into the second one. But I'll look it up for you.
No, it's fine. I mean, I was just curious.
And it might not come until later. I don't remember. But I will say with the first episode, my favorite shot in the entire episode, and one of the things that it gives me chills when I watch it, is when Edward makes the spear. Just the lightning in his pose, and then when he rips off his jacket to reveal his metal arm. And it might just get me because I know the price and the toll and everything else, but I just love it, and it made me so happy.
So yeah, I'm intrigued by it. I want to see more.
Well, good. Let's get into episode 2 then.
All right then. I'm all for it.
All right, let us go out.
Well, everybody, you know where to find us. You can find us on your favorite podcasting platform. Tell all your friends and all your favorite anime fans and whoever out there, if they're into Fullmetal Alchemist and they want to see this show survive, that's what we're doing. This entire year, it's going to be a campaign. Save Fullmetal Alchemist. You know, not to shit on Brotherhood, but that's what this is all about. Save Fullmetal Alchemist from obscurity and not being erased from history, because that's what's happening. We're going to create a hashtag. Save Fullmetal, or if you can come up with something better, just hit us up and do all that. And then if I can think of a poll that I can put on here, what do you think about Fullmetal Alchemist? That's what I can do. You can answer that question on Spotify. You can go do that right now. And if you want to just keep up with any and all things, do that on pencilpaperproductions.com/inspired Weeaboo. And there you go.
All right, my little weebs. Until next time.
This has been a Pencil and Paper Podcast Network production.